I'm so happy to say that Ryan Reynolds is here to talk to me about this beautiful documentary, John Candy, I Like Me. How are you?
I'm pretty good. I'm okay.
Are you just okay?
Trying to be honest. Yeah, I'm all right. Yeah,
What's
it's like,
going on?
yeah, it's just like I'm too busy, a little bit too busy. I keep trying to sort of narrow the focus to let's do 3 things really well instead of 20 things poorly. That sort of thing, where I'm in that sort of phase of my life.
How you doing with it?
No, I'm varying degrees of success. It's getting, it has pockets of like, yes, this is it, and then it starts to expand again, and they're good problems. I mean, it's my company's grown and it's big and it requires a lot of attention, and it's sort of I never imagined being a guy who runs a company. I frankly like that part. I don't want to do. I like
Yeah,
having
you're
fun
you
in the
like the
sandbox.
creative, having a good time thing, but there's
Yeah,
also boring parts of it, and there's
there's
HR
a
and
lot of
staffing and
care that has to be put into a lot of people, and that's fine. It's just that's part of the nature of the beast.
so given that, why was the John Candy story is really interesting to me for all the things that you could possibly do that you told that
Hi,
story.
Daddy.
Hi, Jennifer. How you doing?
Magnificent of visage, eyes and frame, a titan of a gentle, golden man.
Well, you think what you want about me. I'm not changing. I like me.
I mean, you were 18 in 94 when he died.
Yep.
Which tells me that it's the whole, those are good years that you grew up with John Candy.
I grew up with a lot of. I mean, I was in theater for tons of that stuff. I mean,
What's the
Planes,
one?
Trains.
What's the one that,
Planes, Trains is like, it's all over my work. I mean, even like I steal from the movie constantly. I mean, Deadpool and Wolverine, there's like 18 references, I think, to that. There's Deadpool 1, which is now, I guess, about 11 years old. It's in that. I mean, I have the Canadian mounted book with me in one of the scenes where I'd call Paramount, which wasn't at the time, but is now my home studio, and I still every time have to pay $5,000 for the book.
really?
Yeah, it's not even a book. It's just the word's Canadian mounted.
Isn't the I Like Me speech also in Deadpool somehow?
It's in Deadpool and Wolverine. It's a mug.
Yeah.
It's a nod to Candy, but it's also a nod to this doc that would be coming at some point. And then I, had that moment, of course, when Amazon went, what about other titles? Let's investigate other titles. And
Oh, they didn't like I Like Me?
I don't know if they didn't like it, but I do know they have a $2.7 trillion market cap. So at the end of the day, it's not going to matter much to them either way, is it?
No, they're yeah.
no,
You're a
but-
shoelace.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah.
We're a rounding error. Yeah. But they talked about a couple of other titles. Gentleman John, which was one of his nicknames. Johnny LaRue, Johnny Toronto,
Johnny Toronto, yeah.
Gentleman John. He had good nicknames.
The story is that it went up for a montage went up. You and your partner created this montage for the 20th anniversary of John Candy's death. It went viral.
Yeah.
Why did you do it in the first place, and why did you make it a reaction?
I did not have a ton invested in the reaction, but I did it in the first place just because I love the guy. Everything
You just did it because you just
No, everything that I've ever done that worked was because I loved it. Like, because I loved it. Like, I wasn't going, women 18 to 34 are really going to like this, and men, 18 to 49 are really.
Oh, geez, no. I mean, I just mean like.
I just love them. Like,
I just mean of all the things you could have put up a Eugene Levy, you could have put up, like.
Right.
I'm curious as to why
John.
you were thinking 25 years on from John Candy's death. Let's do a little montage of him.
I just honestly, the world feels a little shitty sometimes, and you kind of get cynical, and you think like, you know what? I'm the architect of my own rescue here. Let me do something that makes me happy. Let me feel a little awe. We deprive ourselves of awe all the time. So, I wanted to feel a little awed by him again. So, you set it to that, Dream Academy score, and you get the, different moments of the movie. And it was just a quick little sampling of different parts he played at different moments. And it's like that intersection of nostalgia and goodwill. And it just feels good. And it took off because other people felt the same thing.
Is that why do you think it took off?
I think that people want to be together. I don't know. I mean, we live in a world that's very much addicted to the drug of identity politics. And I was just talking about this where we sort of evaluate rather than observe everything. Everything is an evaluation, not an observation. And it's like it's hard. And I'm telling you things that I am also very guilty of. Like I do it too.
Like, do you mean like we judge things as opposed to just seeing them for what they are, for being just
Yeah.
as present for them?
What happens if you just took that away for a second? Like, it's interesting like how the mind works, right? Like if you take away winning for a second, what if I didn't need to win, which is a primal, right? And what if I instead just like for this moment just wanted to learn, like just for a minute, like what happens? Well, you end up winning.
Yeah, non-attachment. I think about that in terms of sometimes I think, what would life be like if I didn't have any preferences?
Yeah.
And
And
I would probably have a very satisfactory life.
Yeah. Or if you're quiet, watch how people come to you. People start to sort of they lean in. It's like why a whisper is more effective sometimes than a yell, right?
Cross the line to John Candy then.
John is like a lot of things to me. I mean, John died of a heart attack, but like that's also ironically the thing that he left behind was his heart. Like he was it's joy every time when you say John Candy. We say it in the doc. Everyone says it. They smile. You think of him and you smile. But he left behind a little kid and another little kid and a wife and friends and all of these things. And he did too much. He was like, so I relate to a few different things. I relate to the idea of like trying to make a room a little bit better than when you left. Sometimes it's successful, sometimes it's not.
Yeah.
I relate to, the people pleaser. I relate to the mental health stuff, because a people pleaser who has any kind of mental health struggles, those two are so antithetical to each other that like that's what kills people. You kind of, people pleaser has to like would rather die than burden somebody with their own problems, and somebody who is dealing with mental health issues has to step into a light and center themselves and has to talk about themselves. So it's like very hard, creates a paradox that is very difficult to overcome. And I think John lived in that paradox and really struggled with that, and I struggle with that too, because I want to deliver always for everyone, and when I can't, I get twisted in knots, and I kind of, even a crew, like a film crew, I'm the producer and the writer and the star, and I want to get everyone home for dinner, or like, whatever, like optimize when we're in quarantine in 2020, like on a movie, optimize the schedule so we can get everyone out of a motel that we're all stuck in and can't see anyone, family or anything. You're trying to always take care of other people, and you sometimes kind of forget to like, that it's okay to like disappoint someone, or, have a moment where you take for yourself. It's a strange thing. And he did it all. We kind of have that parallel path, like the sports team and all that.
Let me go through it because you're right. I mean, there's a lot there. So for people who don't know, what Ryan's talking about there is something I didn't know about John Candy. Like I knew John Candy I was young, so I knew him. I sort of learned about him in retrospect, but Home Alone was my sort of introduction to him. And then I knew him as a very sad story that he had died, but he was a very proud Canadian. And he had done great work and people seemed to really love him. Yeah. And what you're referring to there is you find out early on what was driving him his entire life from the very moment he was born. Yeah. John is 5 years old, and he finds out that his father dies on his birthday. They continue the party, and he has to, because no one talks about it. And he starts a life of people pleasing, of making people happy, of always being the last one at the party, never saying no to a role, never saying no to
a picture or an autograph or
signing autographs for 3 or 4 hours, or even
returning fan letters. Like, I mean, he returned, fan letters. He took the time to do that, so yeah, it was a guy that really wanted to deliver for everybody. And you can imagine in Hollywood, that's the worst possible thing you can do. I mean, Conan mentions it. I didn't think of that before. That's what's great about a documentary. Is like, you're not telling a story, you're listening. I don't know what the hell any of this is going to turn into, and you just keep listening. Colin Hanks, myself, Shane Reed, George, all of us who were making this movie, were just sitting there going, what's it saying to us? A narrative movie does the same. We just resist it more because there's a script and a shot list. But like, all stories talk to you. So if you listen, they'll tell you something kind of cool. And this one was telling us all kinds of stuff like that, which is
so
wild.
You see that story about John and you start thinking what? You see that John, a lot of the troubles that he faced in his life came from a sadness of,
Yeah.
or for some, it's not up to me to judge, but for some sort of thing he wasn't getting, or something that kind of
Yeah,
happened
but
to
who
him.
isn't? To varying degrees. I mean, I don't know anybody who is like, yep, it's all perfect, nailed it. If they are like that, then I actually, the fitting word, they've been hit in the head with a nail gun. Like there's a 7-inch nail in their brain, like,
Yeah,
and it's in the perfect spot that I'd like it in,
yeah,
because everything's great. Our life is a patchwork quilt of injuries and wounds, physical and mental and emotional, and those are how you use them is up to you, right? Like he could have found, if he'd not wrecked his knee, he may have found that coping mechanism in physicality, in
he was a
football.
high school football star, and he
Yeah.
wrecked his knee, and they took away his kneecap, and he couldn't.
So
Yeah,
what's next?
yeah,
His mouth.
yeah.
His ideas, his sensibility, his feeling. Like I think of guys like John as like a skin-covered antenna. They are reading the room for danger everywhere, and they're reading the room to make sure that everybody in the room feels seen and heard. Because John's probably one of the guys that wakes up in the middle of the night thinking about something he said or did or didn't say to somebody somewhere somehow, and that's a very common part of anxiety and everything. Lots of us all feel, but his is, I think, much louder. And that's a tough way to live. It's a tough, but it has gifts. Like you think asymmetrically. You start doing, you can write, you can kind of create and make stuff work that shouldn't. Like I don't know.
Are you talking about yourself here?
No, I mean I teach what I need to learn. That's for sure. So if I'm talking about something that's like horribly broken, maybe, but a little bit. I mean, I look. I'm not saying I grew up like a pauper or like a matchstick girl. I mean, my dad was a cop, 4 boys, working class house. Like we had just what we needed, barely nothing we wanted, and that like is good in some ways. Like it put accountability into my bones. Like I worked at Safeway and drove a forklift and worked the midnight shift and like was accountable, and that's good for show business later because like you work in that business, no one's going to yell at you if you're late. No one's going to tell you anything. So it's like, even when I pitch an idea, I say, here's the shitty version. And then now I've just given the person permission to dissent rather than just go, that's great. That's awesome, boss. Good job. Like, I don't want that. That's horrible. I want to like they talk about it in the movie, which is, I think, beautiful, which is like the improv comedian invites you in and wants, their job is to make you look good, and your job is to make them look good.
Yeah.
And it's I think that's beautiful.
I did see, and if this is too personal, let me know. But I did see,
My colonoscopy.
I did, and I looked at it, and I had
IMAX was a nice touch,
I had to
right?
break it. Yeah, it was very well done. And
Yeah.
by the way, clean as a whistle.
Yes, thank you very much. It was all in the prep.
I was
really.
here to give you the news. Congrats, you'll live.
No bollops.
Well, I wouldn't say that. Let me, Sydney polyps. So let me. Thank you very much. Let me get to my point. There's a great meditation teacher I really love named Sharon Salzberg, and she teaches like presence and loving kindness a lot, which I get a lot out of. And the thing that happened to her when she was young was her mother died. And no one said the word death to her. They never talked about her death ever. They never ever mentioned it to her. When John Candy was 5 years old, his father died. No one ever talked about death with him. No one ever mentioned they continued to have the party. And Ryan, tell me if this is too personal, but like I know from doing a lot of research for this interview, I saw a couple of things. One is that when you were growing up, you had a family member get diagnosed with a pretty serious disease. Your father,
my dad,
your dad,
Parkinson's.
and he never the word, you said something in an interview like the word Parkinson's was never said more than once or twice.
He said it maybe 3 times in his whole life.
And even when you were young, hard things weren't talked about, like tough things weren't talked about.
Never.
Is there a connection between not just having because I think the sad clown thing is overdone. Like we go through hard things and you become a happy thing. But I wonder if there's a connection.
And also others people, right?
Like, yeah. I wonder if there's a connection between growing up with not talking about the hard stuff, which you two have in common, that might lead to a performance, that might lead to
oh my God, yeah, like absolutely. That's not too personal. That's I want to talk about that because that's what I think people relate to. And when people like me, forgive the air quotes, but like when people like me talk about it, it sometimes gives other people permission to talk about it. Somebody might think I'm cool. Somebody might think I'm an asshole. Somebody might think I'm whatever. But if I'm talking about stuff like that, it opens it up. It just makes it a little bit easier. So like, yeah, my dad never talked about anything. My dad, like, I don't think I ever had a conversation with the man. I mean, the way I have a conversation with my kids, where I'm like, oh man, when I was your age, I remember this guy, Jimmy Barbudas, and we went to the grocery store and we did this thing and it was so dumb. And I did like that's a conversation. I'm telling them a story about my life and then I want to hear a story about their life, like that is a reaction to my childhood in a good way. I'm healing the thing I didn't get through them, right? Like I can kind of, it's called imago, like you sometimes date the image of the person that hurt you, or or you also can act it out with your kids where you're like, you can heal it, so it's an opportunity. So like, I think maybe that's why I have 4. Like, it's just a lot to talk about. But it's been interesting. Now I have a son, we weren't like holding out for a boy. We always find out when they come out to shoot. And I was scared at first. I was like, oh man, is he gonna fight me on the lawn one day? Like,
Why?
like,
Why was that what you were worrying about?
my father was started his life as a boxer and a cop, and he was just like a real physical guy. He wasn't like physically abusive necessarily to me, although it was a time when you get spanked or slapped and that kind of stuff. But it was, I'm lost as a parent most of the time because it's so soft. So I lock up when like, a kid is spiraling because I don't yell and I don't hit and we don't do any of those things. My dad yelled and he hit.
So you don't know what to do.
It was the generation. Yeah. So you don't know what to do. So you just read every book on earth. And now I'm like, then you start to get equipped and you start going, oh, I got to get down on my knee and get to their level. And I got to just be the pilot. Like they're looking at me like the pilot of the plane. And if I'm panicking and yelling and freaking out, the plane's going to crash. So it's sort of, we have so many more tools available to us that we just didn't have.
I'm understanding what you're talking about, and I'm understanding the parallels for why you would see the story of John Candy and think to yourself, oh man, there's a lot of me in there. We're both sort of Canadians in Hollywood, being very Canadian, and I don't mean that in sort of like a drinking double way. I mean like in terms of like being kinder or maybe a little bit self-effacing or a little bit self-deprecating in an industry that doesn't.
Yeah. Well, he was self-effacing, but he wasn't self-loathing on camera.
No, yeah.
He might have been off, but he was definitely, talk about a guy that was admired by everybody. But, there's a thing that I've noticed recently, and maybe you can correct me or disagree, or I'm curious. But Canadians tend to, when faced with injustice or broken integrity, tend to really react strongly.
Yeah, there's a strong moral center.
John did that.
Yeah.
He really held, he put a bookmark in his mind for someone that hurt him and often never spoke to them again. And that I thought was really fascinating. And I wish I could learn more about that, but I can't because he's gone. But yeah.
You also, I mean, seems small, but weirdly, I didn't know John Candy owned the Toronto Argonauts. And you both own professional sports teams?
Yeah.
So that's a little spooky.
Wild parallels. I know. It's absolutely crazy. I own mine with Bruce McNall. No, I'm kidding.
And you lost a lot of money.
Yeah.
And that's why you're here talking to the CBC.
Yeah.
You have both been under a lot of scrutiny from the media, and I know we're short on time, but like I do want to ask about this. A part of you've been under a lot, you've had a lot of your personal life and a lot of, so you've been sort of in that tabloidy sort of world. And there are a lot of scenes in this documentary where John Candy is just asked point blank about his weight in really awful ways. I mean, there's one where he says, like, speaking of a giant film, I got a giant right here or something like that with John Candy.
That was not even close to the worst one.
I read that you contacted someone who asked John Candy a sort of weight-related, insensitive question and wanted to know why they did it. Why did you do that?
They asked him something that was really just mean, and I just was like curious if they wanted to talk about it. Not if they, I'm not a journalist, so I wasn't like,
That makes the two of us, buddy.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to distract the viewer from John, right? So I'm not going to put something in that's so sensational that's what people are talking about. So my job is to sort of safeguard that, as is Colin's. And so it wasn't going in, but I did contact the person to just say, hey, do you have something to say about it? Because maybe your point of view on this is interesting in and of itself, where the world was then and where it is now. And, but also that you touched on that thing where tabloids, it's not tabloids anymore. I mean, we're not National Enquirer world as much as we certainly were back in the 90s and stuff like that. I mean, like, we're at a weird inflection point where legacy media is in trouble, but doesn't know it, or doesn't want to talk about it.
I don't want to talk about it.
No, but I mean, it's yeah, but we're in the generation of the TikTok generation of, I read the article, so you don't have to. That's terrifying, So like, where is objective news? Like, I mean, really, truly, if like social media had a critical thinking button, I wonder if people would press it, because everyone thinks they're a critical thinker. Like if you could convince social media moguls to install this using AI without affecting algorithmic revenues from whatever your, every ad that comes across, or, your server, all this stuff, would people use it? I'm just curious. Like, I'd want to hit it. I'd want to know what it is. But then we're also mistrustful of all of these things. And I always ask legacy media, maybe I'm asking you this right now, like, what's the plan? Like, where's that? Like, when you talk to like Time Magazine or New York Times or LA Times, or what's the plan? Like, that's marketing. Like, you got to market. You got to do something, like, because they're not running, 18-year-olds aren't running to grab the next issue of Life. Well, not just because it's been discontinued for decades, but also they just don't imbibe information like that. So I don't know. It's a weird, I'm worried about people, my kids is what I'm really saying, like growing up in this world of like just evaluation everywhere. It's like just become the norm.
Did watching John Candy's story make you go, I need to change something in my own life? Because just by the way you were talking about how you related to it.
It's a brick in the wall. Like, I don't know. I don't believe that whole idea of like, that moment of clarity, revelatory kind of thing that like, and then everything changed. It's like, I've had maybe 2 of those in my life, and like, they're not common. Like, a kid with cancer 11 years ago got me, like just got me.
Yeah.
Like, it never left and it won't ever leave.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like, getting a laugh in a really unorthodox way when I was 13.
Yeah.
I said something to someone about like, they said, well, the camera's got to look this way and that way. And I went, does the camera have JFK bullet vision? But I was like 12, and it was like it was like kind of a weird thing for a 12-year-old to think like that. And I remember that validation.
Yeah.
And I felt like I had a worth.
Yeah, but you're looking at John Candy's story, which you're saying mirrors so much of your own.
Right.
And John Candy's story is a very happy and joyful one, but also a one you can learn a lesson from.
Yeah.
And are you going
slow down is part of it, is just like slow down, disappoint people.
Yeah.
It's all right.
Yeah, man.
You're going to be okay.
Yeah.
They're going to be okay.
Yeah.
Also, like, I don't know, conflict. I don't know why they don't teach conflict resolution in school. It's the best thing I ever did. Like, so like, if they're not okay, I'm also equipped, like, you got to have faith in that, to deal with someone who's not okay. Like, I can mirror, empathize, and validate with them and still not agree. Like, there are tools available that they don't teach in school, like changing a tire on a car, like things you actually need. And that's one of them. That's the biggest one. Like, it's just teaching, we talk about all these things we want our students to learn about our past, as ugly as our past has been in this country and the United States and stuff. But like, you can't get people to have a civil conversation about a sporting event. Like, people don't know how to talk to each other. They only know how to win. And it's like that's an ill of society. I've gone too far. I'm in the rabbit hole. I'm gone. I went down the Q rabbit hole, like I always do. Last time with you, I did it too. And I've gone down the rabbit hole.
I mean, I love it, and I wish we could have a little bit more time to talk about it all.
Yeah, me too. I hate interviews, because then this is the other part. You don't tell me anything.
I'll tell you this before I go.
Yeah.
It's that I read an interview where you talked about, and this is not my question. This is how I'll close the interview. I read an interview where you talked about the idea of collective effervescence, and you asked me, how do I think legacy media survives? And I don't actually know, but I do know that on this show, when it comes to the CBC, I do believe that if you try to give people something deeply human they can agree on, you might be able to bring some people together who wouldn't normally listen to things. That's why we try to talk about bigger human things.
Yeah.
And
true,
the John Candy film that I saw that you made with Colin Hanks made me feel that. Yeah. It made me feel that there are deep human truths that can go beyond any sort of polarities that we may experience on the internet. And I think I owe you a debt of gratitude for it. So thank you for it.
Thank you very much. Isn't that funny that that's the thing that, like, when we're all in a room together, if you're experiencing the same thing at the same time in the same way, we all feel connected to each other.